Julian, Paul, arise!
How do you know our names?
I am the K, the spirit of college radio. Every house show, every band name mispronunciation, every DJ, I've always seen and known you.
Even that one time in 8th grade?
Even that one time in 8th grade. Enough nonsense, you two. I did not appear to you for no reason. Do you know how expensive that fog is? You think I'd use it for no reason? I came here today to set you upon a great journey. For many years, I have dreamed of creating an oasis for hip-hop in the Twin Cities. A place where rap fans can enjoy their favorite songs without censorship, commercials, or tacky DJs. I have slumbered for many years, waiting for those worthy to take this journey upon themselves. Alas, I have found you two.
That sounds pretty cool, I gotta say. What do we have to do?
Scour the library for every piece of hip-hop. Scan them. Learn. Once that is done, return to me for your next task. I'm still thinking about the name too. Maybe you could help with that. Something like, I don't know, the Radio K Rousing Romantic Revolutionary Rap Extravaganza!
Yeah, that's super dope. We'll get back to you on that one.
I think what I love about hip-hop the most is how open and accepting it is. You know, all the subgenres sprouting out of it and how expressive it's getting. I'm excited about Vanguard because I never really heard like uncensored radio, so it'll be nice to have that.
Yeah. This is the last one I'm doing, then I'm probably gonna go joke. You have a bang. Next videos? You need to cut that out of the video, please. Yeah, all in under one roof. Tooth knocked out when you're raving on the sunroof. Bottom of the rug booth. Actually, your mother's in demand of what your son do. Simon told me maybe he could run you. Simon told me ladies don't go on dates unless they love you. Lying to my baby, I'm not a snake, I had a gun too. Knocking out on my brain, I'm John McCain when they abduct you. Journalists on the scene, hey, journalists on the scene. Just to burn, say what you mean. Stainless steamer on my wheel so that my turner can run with ease. That's my burger with buns and cheese. Yeah, it don't hurt when I went through green. Evan in blood when I want to be. Elegant shit when I want to be. But never in blood in 1, 2, 3. Action not the time. Okay, rolling through. Close to with it, not the vibe. We roll 50 toes and okay, not the path of tide. What's the alibi? Right into the black and nine. Action not the time. Okay, rolling through. Close to with it, not the vibe. We roll 50 toes and okay, not the path of tide. What's the alibi? Right into the black and nine.
Okay, everything's scammed. What now?
Now you must seek more knowledge about hip-hop. Learn the origins of the genre to recontextualize where it is today. Seek Professor Yolanda Williams of the African American Studies Department. Perhaps her genius will wear off on you, and you'll come back knowing more than you did.
And what will you be doing exactly?
Trying to beat The Rock. He's impossible in this one.
I'm here with Professor Yolanda Williams. She is a professor at the African American Studies Department at the University of Minnesota's Twin Cities. Hi, Professor.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Professor Williams has a wealth of knowledge on Black American music in the United States, and we figured we should ask her some questions about the genesis of hip hop and where it is today. So my first question is, that art fills the container that it's in. How did the socioeconomic and cultural conditions of 1970s New York City influence the creation of hip hop?
How in the world does New York become one of the incubation sites for what we're going to call eventually hip hop? Well, one of the things that's important to know is that New York, like Chicago, like New Orleans, like San Francisco or LA, are major centers of immigration, places where immigrants come. And New York happens to be one of the major sites of West Indian incubation. And so the incubation starts in the West Indies with people who are using what they can, which was stereos and loudspeakers, to have parties and to announce the parties. So they would very much so put those speakers and the system on a truck, run it off of a generator and run it around town announcing that a party's going to happen. And then the parties were often in open air areas as well. And so then that becomes the way that they're doing the music. Now, what becomes different about how they do music, the West Indians, which are a combination of African and Caribs and other native indigenous Indians, as well as some Europeans, is that unlike our radio stations at the time, I'm not thinking of the Black radio stations, I'm thinking of the white radio stations that primarily announce the song that's gonna happen, and then may do a commercial and then announce the song. They were actually holding conversations over the music. So that the music becomes part of the performance rather than it's something separate that they then shift between. So in doing that, and I should say some of this was happening in the 50s with, the Moondog Show and all these new kind of rock and roll DJs that are coming out. But still, the practice wasn't to see the music as the interaction in the conversation, the way it was with the West Indians. So they're moving from those homes into the New York homes. The other thing that I should add that really adds to it is that a lot of the West Indians that were coming here also were doing radio and television repair. So they had a lot of knowledge about the way sound can react and the way that you can manipulate sound based on electrical currents and based on the tubes and based on all of the stuff that you can add to the song so that the song that you're playing also becomes a new creation. So you have this idea of toasting, having a running conversation with the music. You have this idea of manipulating the song itself, so it itself becomes a new creation. And those get put together to create then first what was considered rap, but then expanding to what we call hip hop.
So basically just people's ingenuity, like using what they had at the time and just like their prior skills too. It's like
Always. The arts are about, I think, three things. One, a need to express yourself uniquely with the language and the vocabulary that you find relevant. The other is available materials. So for example, we talk about Trinidadian pan music or the steel drum music. How did that come about? Well, it turns out that when oil companies from Europe and United States left or were told to get out, they left all their oil drums. I mean, how ridiculous. You leave your trash, but countries do that, right? And so you have all these oil drums that are sitting around. What are we going to do with them? Well, let's hammer some of them so that they can actually create some music. And a lot of the people who were doing that hammering on those oil drums were people who were working in the refrigeration industry. So they understood metal and they understood pitch and all of this stuff. And so you put those, and then they had a need to speak differently than the Europeans spoke through music, to speak even differently than the Africans spoke in music, and even different than the Caribs were speaking in music. And then we get the synthesis that we now call pan music or steel drum music. Hip hop is no different, jazz is no different, rock and roll is no different.
It kind of bleeds into my second question of if like specific genres are specific musical movements that influence the creation of hip hop. So kind of dub music is what you're, in those cities, right?
Yep, dub and rock steady, all of those forms that were the dance forms in West Indies had an idea that there's a communication that happens beyond just the music playing. Even if you have a live band, there's something that's supposed to happen so that you're communicating. And I think in part it might be to keep the audience with you, because one of the things that is traditional to most indigenous music, and we certainly see it in African music, is that the performance is not separate from the audience. That doesn't happen until Western art music, where you're supposed to sit there and just ooh and ah over the expertise that's being presented for you. In all the other musics and in African music, the audience is particularly expected to be a part of the performance. We call that phrase, everybody participates. So you might not be able to play an instrument, but you might clap. You might not know how to clap very well. You're moving your body and you're dancing along. You sometimes add your words to the words that are being sung or performed by the group. And so this ingenuity, this need to express oneself creatively, and I use the word creatively not to say that expression all has to come through art, but it's your own unique way of expressing yourself, is something that is a human need, and every human being pushes toward.
Well, now that we've got the overview of the genre and like its genesis, I want to get more into where it's at today. Actually, something that happened last week. Today hip hop is one of the biggest genres in the world, and rappers can collaborate with even mega corporations like McDonald's, like we saw this past week. So I wasn't alive in the 1970s/1980s. So I wanted to ask you, how different is this from how the genre was at the start? And could you have imagined this 30 or 20 years ago?
Oh, for sure, for sure. This kind of evolution has happened in every pop music form. Secretly, I think our country, as much as it denies its foundations in Africanisms, they can't get over the fact that there's something very compelling about it. And so even though they told people not to listen to jazz, and they tried to put it off the radio stations, and they tried to put down anybody who played it, eventually they recognized what the United States is based on: money, that it could make some money. And so then all of a sudden people wanted to jump on the bandwagon, not because they truly believed in the music, but because they wanted to make money off it. And the same thing happened with rhythm and blues in the 40s. People said that it was, bastardly music. They said it was the mongrel music. It was music for the low class, the ignorant, et cetera, until ching ching. They recognized it was going to make some money, and that it was not just Black people that were listening to it, that it had a crossover appeal that they hadn't expected. So what do? They repackage it as rock and roll so that they can incorporate all the white musicians, since rhythm and blues was considered a Black music form. And we're off to the races. Now, when you ask people about rock and roll, they do not think that it is Black music. They think that it is white music. It's been repackaged. And that's my fear for where hip hop is going.
My final question is, today, like always, I guess there's been a real just like meshing of genres. And I don't know if it's because of the internet or just culture as a whole, but it seems like genres are meshing together a lot more. And you hear a lot of hip hop influences in just any other genre that you hear on the radio, like pop, for example. So my question to you, and this is kind of a big question, but where do you think music would be today without hip hop?
Considering at the time that it came along, I think music would be pretty sad without hip hop, because we had those great neo soul bands and jazz rock fusion bands of the 70s, but they didn't seem to last. That people, it was, to me, the difference between them and hip hop is the difference between what was happening with swing and what happened with bebop. Everybody was willing to dance the music. Everybody likes to dance, not a problem, but there was nothing that was really talking about the realistic lifestyles that people were living and expressing some anger about that. Rather than saying, let's just dance and feel good about it. Let's be angry about it. Let's use some visuals that are really harsh and really confrontational. And so I think that hip hop owes a debt of gratitude for everything that came over here from West Africa on. And then West Africa on owes a debt of gratitude to hip hop. And I hope that hip hop artists recognize that they have a responsibility, to recognize the thread and then to expand the box or the container you were talking about so that others are invited in. And if hip hop changes into something else, to applaud it and to get on board with it. Because the fact that you can see, to me, I knew hip hop was normalized when Colonel Sanders was rapping. I knew of this history, and Colonel Sanders, somewhat looking like a Civil War general on the Confederate side, somewhat looking like Uncle Sam, some kind of mesh there. And when he started with his cane walking around rapping, I thought, hip hop is now America's music. But we have to recognize that we don't want to lose what made hip hop different from the musics that came before. We want to still keep it real and true, and we need to add to that then the responsibility for, as I was saying before, once you have stirred the pot up, you can't just walk away and say, I'm out, and go back to your gated community. You have started something, and I expect to see you at the polls. I expect you to see influencing people to vote. I expect to see you sending some crayons and some writing utensils to schools that don't have them. I expect to see you going somewhere and doing something with your newfound fame that's going to make a better world, not keep things the same.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Professor Williams. This was a great conversation.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to see what comes out of Vanguard, and anytime you need support, I'm here.
Thank you.
stung on a string, they control you. Bitch, I'm in the ring by myself, that's some more news. Beat myself up, suicide, what the doors do. Send myself threats, where you at, what you gon' do? Racing to the green, avocado like it's soul foods. Think I'm getting sick in the head, not a cold dude. Came from getting top in the bands, thought I told you. Sorry, I'm your baby and your baby couldn't hold you.
Roll it in, ride it with a boulder pen. Ain't no devil in you till you know that you done sold a sin. Ain't no food up on the table till you gon' bowl it in. Time to me was so thin, I was getting cold again. Message never send an envelope, never fold again. We been getting high just to see what keep it low again. Time was moving fast but my reality was slow again. Lesson learned to never let you step over my toe again. Crisscross crazy, big top daily. Look me in the mirror just to see what I can never be. Look me in the eye before you tell me what you telling me. Brought it to the death before you sell me what you selling me. We been getting whoop, yeah, we been getting celery. We been getting cooked, yeah, we been getting fettuccine. Niggas been sad, big mad, big energy. Niggas in the lab cooking chemistry and melody. I never know what I mean, yeah, I never know what I lean, yeah. I just be making a mess, hey, I never know what to clean, hey. Looking at me with stress, hey, I never know what to see, hey. Never know what to expect, yeah. I never know what to be, hey. I wanna rock on my neck, big check, shiny shade, Windex. Play with the ink, get your pen wet. Fuck on the phone, I don't send sex. Touching it down like a running back. Fuck on it and make a leg jet. Down me dancing like reggaeton. Down me dancing like telephone, yeah.
Got you stung on a string, they control you. Bitch, I'm in the ring by myself, that's some more news. Beat myself up, suicide, what the doors do. Send myself threats, where you at, what you gon' do? Racing to the green, avocado like it's Whole Foods. Think I'm getting sick in the head, not a cold dude. Came from getting top in the bands, thought I told you. Sorry, I'm your baby and your baby couldn't hold you.
That was nice.
That sounded good.
Yeah.
It's hard to do the mic pass.
Yeah.
It's the only challenge out, right?
Yeah.
It's like a relay.
You missed the first 0.5 of every word. It's fine. Hold it in. Got you stuck.
Here at the University of Minnesota, we have a student group for every interest. Quidditch, juggling, and even music for some reason. Hook Club, a book club for music run by and for students, is one of the best places for music lovers to go for stimulating conversations about their favorite albums. Let's hear what they have to say about their favorite hip-hop albums and why they're excited for the launch of the Vanguard.
Hey, I'm here with Hook Club, the University of Minnesota's book club for music. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about our favorite hip-hop albums and also what Hook Club has in store for this year. If the officers just want to go around and introduce themselves and their positions, we can really get started.
I'm Demetria. I'm the president of Hook Club.
I'm Sophie, and I'm an officer of Hook Club.
I'm Jaden, another officer in Hook Club.
I'm Eric. I'm also an officer.
I'm Nick. I'm also an officer.
And I'm Clara, also an officer.
So I have one big question that we can take some time to think on. There's like the concept of like a desert island album, that there's one album that you take with you that you can only have for the rest of your life. So I want to ask, what hip hop album would that be?
I literally could not live without the education of Lauryn Hill. Like, I love that album so much, and I already like listen to it constantly. So it's definitely my pick.
What do you love about it, Demetria?
I love Lauryn just has such a wonderful and unique delivery. I think just the production on the album is really phenomenal. Like, I love the instrumentals. I love how I really think that she was kind of ahead of her time with, sorry, I know I'm like not articulating this well, kind of I love how she raps about motherhood. I think that that's not something that is really represented as much as it could be or should be. I think motherhood is really like perceived as a state of disempowerment and servitude, and it's kind of like docile, but or like perceived as such. And I think that she really raps about womanhood and like complexity of like the complexity of like her sexuality and like her relationship to God and her relationship to motherhood and all these different things. And I think she just was, I really can't wrap my head around the fact that she was 21. Like when she wrote it, it's so crazy how wise she was. And there's just a lot that I really, really love about that album. And I think that there are very few that could replicate just a lot of that mastery of those concepts and those sounds that she did on that album. So yeah.
Might be just because I've been listening to it recently, but I think Food by Doom.
Oh yeah.
Mine. It just provides a sense of levity and humor that I think a lot of other albums fail to, or maybe don't focus on, and I just really appreciate that about it, and I think it'd be a good companion.
Honestly, I'd probably take like All of My Heroes Are Cornballs by JPEG Mafia. I honestly love like the fact that he produced it himself and he wrote all the lyrics for it. He found all the samples for it. You can be like, it really like hypes me up. Like it really gets me in like the mood that I want to be in a lot. He has a lot of like cool, funny, interesting bars in his music. And I think he's overall just like a very interesting person.
I am still quite new to hip hop as a genre, so I'm really thankful for my friends through Hook Club for introducing me to more artists and things like that. Over the summer, we had a small group of us that would listen to albums, and so I was introduced to some Outkast and other artists that I really enjoyed. But I think the most surprising one for me was College Dropout by Kanye. I had such a preconceived notion of what I thought it would sound like, and I was completely blown away.
Always interesting when that happens. What did you think it was going to sound like?
I'm not quite sure, but I wasn't expecting. I loved all the soulful like backup singers. I loved like the energy that it created. I can't describe what I thought it was going to be like. A lot of my introduction to hip hop was through small Korean artists. So a lot of that is just offshoots and partial, well, definitely in some cases, appropriation of Black culture. So it kind of started with a skewed view, I think, of how people from another culture would view Black culture.
This is a really hard question for me, but I think in general for me, hip hop is a genre I go to when I need to feel better and lighter about the world. And so I go to throwback albums that just make me feel good and happy. And I think one of those is probably like Rolling Papers by Wiz Khalifa, because I can just blast it in the car and feel like the world is okay.
Any like go-to tracks from there?
I really like Roll Up.
Probably if anybody's familiar with Redman, his debut album, What the Album, is like really good. It's produced entirely by himself and Eric Sermon of EPMD, and it's like samples like mostly like funkadelic and stuff, so it's like super funky, like really good mix of hardcore lyricism and like party raps, and it's like right up my alley. So yeah.
And I just wanted to ask about what Hill Club has in store for this year with like COVID and everything. I figure you're the person to ask, Demetria.
Indeed. I guess what we have in store, we've been thinking this through for a long time because Hook Club was so based on, community, kind of like gathering together in person. It was kind of like this idea, well, we see each other more than we see our family, really, when we're at school. So we wanted it to be super intimate, but, with in-person gatherings, obviously that's not an option. So we figured we'd try the Zoom thing out, even though it can be a little bit harder, technical difficulties, feel a little bit less connected. Basically what we have in store is just to meet weekly on Monday nights and through Zoom and talk about our favorite albums, whether it be newer releases or older releases. And we really hope to kind of dive in like really deeply this semester and talk about, I don't know, I feel like with the pandemic, And with all of the things that have been like changing in our lives, I'm hoping that we can have kind of some deeper connections and conversations, and because music I know has become so important for so many people, and I think that talking about that, and especially with people that you really care about and respect, and I think that can be a really great thing during a time like this. So I guess that's what we have in store for now.
Oh, definitely. We really need that, just like community around music. It's always been important, but now it's really important to like keep that fire going. And what's the first album you guys will be discussing this year?
We will be discussing Fetch the Bolt Cutters by Fiona Apple. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Nice. Well, thanks for taking the time to speak with me, you guys. It's a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for chatting with us.
Hi, my name is Huhroon. One thing I like about hip hop is its use of auto-tune. Yes, auto-tune. I said it. It's the most beautiful thing that's ever been created. I like how all the young generation, they love it. They love it. They sprinkle it into everything, like parsley. I love it. Why am I excited for Radio K's Vanguard? I think that it'll be a good way to highlight other young artists who are doing their thing, other hip hop artists who have a talent and are in dire need for a platform to showcase that talent. And I think Radio K's Vanguard has the capabilities to do such things. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Moving on up like escalator, you want talk, show me the paper. In my bag of Duffy, maybe in my pen of Dopey, take it. I'm and it's only right to watch, because I like to. They want me to misbehave, I take the mask off, key right off. If you just learn to let it go. Are you stuck up reminiscing while you scrolling through your phone? You need answer, clear your head. You take problems to your bed. Need a vacation from the shit you getting fed. Why you doubting in your worth? Cause the pain you take its on. They can't stomach what your value is, just leave your ass behind. You see past the far beyond. Think about it when you gone. Someday you won't have to stress for nothing, you'll be right at home. Ain't no manual for life, you just learn to let it go. Why you stuck up reminiscing while you scrolling through your phone? You need answer, clear your head. You take problems to your bed. Need a vacation from the shit you getting fed. Ain't no manual for life, you just learn to let it go. Why you stuck up reminiscing while you scrolling through your phone? You need answer, clear your head. You take problems to your bed. Need a vacation from the shit you getting fed. You want touch on me, baby? In my bag of Duffy. I'm on this only right to wash your face because I like to. They want me to misbehave, I take the mask off here. No matter you just learn to let it go. Why you stuck up reminiscing while you scrolling through your phone? You need answer clear.
The intersection between sonic and visual art is fascinating. Sharing a symbiotic relationship, the two inspire, inform, and challenge each other. The Weissman Art Museum, the University of Minnesota's acclaimed on-campus art museum, would like to tell you some more about this, and to share the work of a few very talented Black artists.
Hello everyone, my name is Laura and I am a WHAM Collective officer as well as a graduate student in the Arts and Cultural Leadership program here at the U. So today we're going to talk a little bit about quilting, hip-hop, and storytelling through art and community. But before we get started, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the WHAM Collective, who we are, and what we do. So the WHAM Collective is the official student group of the Weissman Art Museum at the University of Minnesota. The Weissman Art Museum presents and interprets works of art and offers exhibitions that place art within relevant cultural, social, and historical contexts. Several major exhibitions are offered each year, and usually our in-person programming ranges from tours to symposia. While we just reopened our physical doors today, we will be hosting virtual programming throughout the year. Since the museum's inception in 1934, WAM has been a teaching museum for the University of Minnesota. Today, education remains central to the museum's mission to make the arts accessible to the university and public communities. Within this context, WAM Collective operates as a community of practice, exploring, questioning, critiquing, and probing the boundaries of what a university art museum can or should be. Topics covered include socially engaged art, hyperconnectivity as disruption, the museum as commons, and new models for interpretation and audience engagement. Web Collective members have the opportunity to work with professional museum staff, artists, advocates, and community members on projects that reflect the concerns, interests, and passions of the student perspective. Our mission at the WAM Collective is to serve as the student voice of and for the museum. WAM Collective acts as a bridge between the widely diverse student body of the university and WAM. The collective fosters student ownership of the museum, advises staff on effective ways to engage the student body, and is proactive in promoting WAM throughout the university community and beyond. Applications to become a WAM Collective officer have just closed, but don't worry, you can still become a student member of the WAM Collective by signing up on our website, which is wam.umn.edu/.
Quilts and hip-hop? You may be wondering how these two very different art forms are similar. Although the fabric and thread of a quilt are far from the microphone and poetry of hip-hop, both have been mediums used to express and engage with resistance, community, and resilience, particularly in the Black community. As Radio K launches their new 24-hour hip-hop streaming service, the Vanguard, we will take a look at the upcoming exhibition, We Are the Story, which features quilts from activists and African American women displayed in various museums around the Twin Cities, and we will link the two art forms through their powerful storytelling abilities. The artist featured at WAM is Penny Mateer, an activist from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who uses photos and digital images to create her quilts. We will also spotlight a local Black and Native American artist featured in our art rental collection, Cameron White, whose work focuses on people of color as religious icons, and who wants to challenge toxic masculinity within the Black community with his representation of Black men, as he does in his work titled Cezanne.
Quilts have been used to warm bodies for thousands of years. Their detailed and meticulous construction holds a long history within the African American community as a functional form of art that has been passed down from one woman to another, keeping each other warm through their use and through the sisterhood formed by their creation process. Quilts are like collages, putting together many pieces of fabric to create one united body. Quilt making has historically been, and is still today, a communal event, where the end product is not merely the quilts themselves, but also the social bonds that are formed during the process. Contemporary artist Faith Ringgold, although usually a solo worker, celebrates the ongoing aspect of community that is a part of quilt making in her artistic work, as seen in her 1996 quilt entitled The Sunflower Quilting Bee at Arles. According to scholar Alana Butler, community-based quilt making can be an important way for African American women to come together and share their stories. Narrative has always been an extremely important part of quilting. The work of Harriet Powers, a woman born into slavery in rural Georgia in the 19th century, shows quilts used as a medium for storytelling. Powers expressed herself and her faith through her work, often depicting biblical narratives in her quilts. Scholar Ilana Butler also says, quilt making provides an opportunity to engage in counter-storytelling, storytelling which allows marginalized people to create their own stories that run counter to or contradict dominant discourses. In this way, quilting is a conduit for political expression and resistance to demeaning hegemonic narratives. Quilting has been a means for political resistance in other ways historically as well, such as during the 19th century, when quilts were used to share messages traveling through the Underground Railroad. In this way, quilt making was a direct form of political resistance to racist American institutions. Quilts are not merely aesthetic, but functional objects, and the roles they play in creating community solidarity and expressing political resistance to injustice are still important today.
We Are the Story, a multi-venue exhibition organized by the Women of Color Quilting Network, or the WCQN, and the Textile Center, features 3 quilt makers brought together by curator and WCQN founder Carolyn Mazlumi, who, in the press release for this exhibition, explains the major themes. Collectively, the exhibition quilts will tell the unsung stories that affect our understanding and inspire our resolve to end this unholy trinity of societal ills. The series will be organized around the following themes: remembering those lost to police brutality, history of civil rights and racism in America, and that exhibitions will build upon symbols of liberation, resistance, and empowerment, offering a visually compelling account of the breadth of experiences and struggles that comprise Black history in an honest and critical way. At the Wiseman, we will be displaying 3 quilts created by artist and activist Penny Mateer from her collaborative Protest series with fellow quilter Martha Wasick. Though neither women are African American, Mazlumi has chosen their work as artists and activists to honor the stories of those who have lost their lives to police brutality. The exhibition's title is key to its understanding. We are this story, as a community and as a people. We have the power to create and sustain meaningful change in society. Let's take a look at Mateer and Wasick's quilts. This is Fight the Power number 15 from the Protest series. Here, Mateer uses newspaper clippings and digital prints to create this large quilt that explores the protests of the 1968 Olympics and Colin Kaepernick's similar protests decades later. In her artist statement, Mateer explains that the exterior frame of the quilt was created using a variation of the traditional quilt block courthouse steps to honor unarmed African Americans who died at the hands of the police, to exemplify Kaepernick's message and raise awareness. This Revolution Will Not Be Televised number 13 from the Protest series uses photos of the faces of 76 individuals killed while in police custody since 1999 after NYPD officer Daniel Pantaleo was not indicted for killing Eric Garner. The names came from tweets made by the NAACP Legal Defense Fund Twitter, and the photos came from Rich Juzviak and Alexander Chan researching the names from these 2014 tweets. This last quilt is titled George Floyd 5/27/2020 and honors his life and the resistance and protest around the country that followed his murder. This quilt is a lot brighter in color compared to the other quilts we already discussed. The black and white photo of Floyd contrasts the background of bright oranges and yellows in a grid-like geometric pattern. Mateer and the other quilters of We Are the Story come together to make their own quilt through story. Their pieces are in different museums and by different artists of different backgrounds, but they come together to tell a collective story, as Mazlumi says, of liberation, resistance, and empowerment.
Hi, my name is Molly Kelly, and I am an officer on Wham Collective, and I am here to talk about hip-hop. In his book, Cultural Codes, Makings of a Black Music Philosophy, composer and scholar Bill Banfield powerfully opens his chapter on the genre with, hip-hop, an inescapable Black aesthetic expression and worldview, may well be the opening Black artist statement of the 21st century. Hip-hop is everywhere in today's culture and all around the world. It is crucial to thank the Black community for the influence they have made and continue to make on the music, dancing, and art world alike. In the journal, Hip-Hop and the Global Imprint of a Black Cultural Form, the authors explain that hip-hop is the artistic elements of DJing and turntablism, the delivering and rapping of lyrics, breakdancing, and other forms of dance, graffiti art, and a system of knowledge that unites them all. While hip-hop continues to grow nationally, the voices of the creators of this art form have started to become both amplified as lost, as well as challenged through concepts of identity. Hip-hop culture has become a central feature that empowers and creates intellectuals who can apply this art form to their everyday lives. It is evident that hip-hop has remained relevant among the younger generations who continue to show interest in this beautiful world of expression.
Cameron White is a local Black and Native American artist who says he sees himself as an outgoing nerd who's obsessed with fashion, whose work was introduced into the art rental program with the Homework collection, which features pieces picked by the Wham Collective with the goal of introducing more BIPOC and emerging artists into the collection. Cameron's piece Cezanne features a Black man with his hands in a prayer position, a yellow halo glowing behind him, all against a soft pastel lavender background. The man has light turquoise nails and gold rings, one with a matching turquoise stone and an earring. He gazes out to the viewer as if making eye contact. Cameron says that he loves to feature people of color and religious imagery in his work, fascinated with the aesthetics of religious iconography. He enjoys incorporating femininity and prettiness when depicting black men, stating that these types of figures challenge the toxic masculinity within and given to the black community. Cameron says that his current work continues to feature black and brown figures with religious elements. Halos, angels, and dreamy pastels surround these figures and transform them into divine beings. He hopes that whoever rents his piece enjoys it staring at them. If you would like to learn more about Cameron White and his work, check out his social media pages. His Twitter is spacejam_cam with a K, and his Instagram is spacejamcamart. His website is spacejamcam.carbonmade.com. The Wiseman's art rental collection is actually the oldest in the country and contains over 800 ready-to-hang works of art. The art rental program began in 1934 at the Wiseman's predecessor, Northrop Auditorium's Little Gallery. Students could rent print reproductions for 25 cents each to adorn the walls of their dorm rooms. The program is named for Hudson D. Walker, the first curator of the Little Gallery, and his wife Ione. In the fall of 2018, WHAM launched the student-only homework art rental collection that Cameron's work is a part of, with artwork selected by us, the WHAM Collective. Featuring prints, drawings, and photographs by established and emerging artists, the collection contains a number of ready-to-hang works available only to students. Make an appointment with our art rental team and snag your own masterpiece. It costs $15 plus tax per artwork per semester for U of M students, with a limit of 3 pieces. Due to COVID-19, an appointment is required to pick out your masterpiece, so plan accordingly and email artrent@umn.edu or call 612-626-3389. And UMN students, don't forget to tweet at Radio K Vanguard and at Wiseman Art your favorite hip-hop song for the chance to rent a piece for free for 1 semester. Although they are very different forms of art, hip-hop and quilting both tell stories and build communities. Whether a musician is performing at a concert or a quilter is quilting in a group, both are shared experiences that bond us and assemble their many pieces into one place. What art are you drawn to? What story does it tell? We hope that you enjoyed this exploration of art and storytelling. Thanks for listening, and thank you to Radio K for having us.
Yeah, I'm ready.
You can run me whatever we go.
I can see through your sinkhole. Make it to the top floor. Honestly, the pressure made me not show. Harder than you work, man, you conquer. Stomach all the pain, leave you hollow. Fuck it, I'll be gone in an instant pronto. I'm in a spliff, no filter, fronto. Sack it up high like I'm on a fucking condo. Burn it to the ground, shit, all you want to. Leave you in the dirt, in the pavement. When you see me, you don't say shit. Is it my face, leave you hanging? Is it my flaws too dangerous? Is it every day what you want from me? I didn't give me space, give me my own peace. All you do is take, never ask, no please. Working every day for the shit I need. Pleasure be the culprit of my life. Wonder if you miss me in the nighttime. Sip a weed, chill, just a pastime. I'm on I'm working harder, but it's alright. I be turned up to the daytime. I be down bad, how is your life? See me, they sigh, it's alright. Go up on stage, late my time. Niggas after me be so tired. Bro, we the same, I won't fight. I just uplift, make the go high. You said do me, I'm so fine. You said do me, I'm so fine. You said do me, I'm so fine. You said do me, I'm alright. I'm right.
Fire.
Yes, the Weisman Art Museum has an art rental program for students, employees, and departments. Tweet at Radio K Vanguard and at Weisman Art to win a free rental art piece for your apartment or dorm for the whole semester. We'll randomly pick a winner and contact you directly. The University of Minnesota's Black Student Union is a haven for Black students on campus. Acting as a second home and a learning resource and community in itself, the BSU does important work on and off campus. We spoke with BSU's Vice President, Samia Ajibula, about hip-hop and some things that the BSU has going on this year. I'm here with Samia Ajibola from the University of Minnesota's Black Student Union. Hi, Samia.
Hey, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good too.
Nice. So what do you do for the Black Student Union?
So I am the Black Student Union's vice president. Basically, I'm in charge of like everything internal. So I handle all the other positions and like what they're up to and what they do and like all the things that we're gonna do within the university, stuff like that.
Nice. So what kind of music do you like, specifically like in hip hop?
Yeah, in hip hop, I really like all types of hip hop. I kind of talked about it too. Just more, I like lyrical, and I also like my mumble rap too. I listen to people like Kendrick and Lil Durk, and I also like Lil Baby too. Then I have to, of course, say Chief Keef, because he basically is the pioneer of mumble rap. So those are my
father, definitely. Yeah. So what do you like about hip hop, like about those artists? How do they make you feel when you listen to them?
I really just like the fact that you can take any situation, like positive or negative, and make it into like an amazing song that you'd want to listen to. Like they take their stories and they take the lives that they've lived, and they just take every scenario, good and bad, even like what's happening in this world, and they make it into something that people can vibe to, people can party to, people can like simp in their room by themselves to. It's just every single emotion, but it's just in one genre probably.
Definitely. And I think with like Chief Keef and like Lil Durk specifically, like that whole Chicago drill movement, they're like they're really taking like their pain and like the things that they saw like growing up and kind of just like making art out of it. I think that's a beautiful thing. That's cool. So within hip hop, you know, nothing's perfect. So what are some things that you want to see change within the genre?
I would want to see less hate for like each other. I'm really big on spreading love and positivity, and I feel like a lot of the time hip hop, we take our pain and we kind of use it to attack each other and make things personal, especially like in the Black area and the Black like life and community. We've had a lot of pain, generational pain, whether that be through what we've experienced through other people or what we've experienced with each other, and we use that to attack others. And I think instead of attacking like the community, I would want to see us like being built up. Even like today, like with the Tory Lanez and Megan situation, like that's just such an unproductive waste of time, and to like put other people down like when everybody else in the world is already putting us down. I want to get rid of that.
So you'd like to see like more unity and community?
Yeah, more unity and talking about the harder things, the things that we don't really talk about. For example, like NLE Choppa, like I love him just because he's a completely different vibe than what you would say of the normal or typical rapper is. Like he's who he is and he's unapologetically that, but he still makes amazing music. So
Yeah, it's been interesting to see him hop on the whole like meditation and mindfulness wave. Do you think it's legit?
I think it's legit for sure. I was watching him and like the way he was just talking about like the remedies that he has his mom and his brothers take, like that was so cute to me. Like he really is looking out, and like he's posting it, like planting in his garden and asking like, let's start a movement. That like you can't make that up. I don't think you can make that up.
I hope not, because I think it's really cool too. He's made this video like waves in the water. He's in the center of it. Like he's on his like avatar stuff. This is pretty dope. Yeah. What kind of like other music do you like besides hip hop?
besides hip hop, I really just listen to R&B, Afro beats, and gospel music. Those are the things, and I guess like alternative rap, but it's still low key hip hop. So.
Okay. What do you mean by like that last one? Like which artist?
So I really like X a lot, and none of my friends like X. They think I'm crazy when I'm listening to him, but I think he's so good. Like, I think he is everything that hip hop should be. Rest in peace.
XXX Tentacion.
Yeah.
How do you like reconcile the things that like he's done with like the music, like listening to the music?
That's a good question. I think that if you look into what everyone has done and the music that they put out, we wouldn't be listening to almost anyone in hip hop, honestly. And yeah, like, I don't think you could excuse the bad things that anyone has done, but I do think that if their music is displaying a positive message, then that's what you should go with. And also, like, before he died, like, he was really apologetic about a lot of the things that he did, and I saw growth in that. And my life isn't on the public display like a famous person is, so like I really just can't judge, especially that I've never been in their shoes.
That's valid. So I wanted to ask you a bit more about what BSU is up to this year, especially with COVID-19 and everything and not being able to meet in person as much. What do you guys have on the horizon?
Yeah, COVID definitely sucks and has hurt us a lot, but I think it's also made us stronger. It's given us more time to come together as our board and really think about what we want to do for our campus. And we've been hosting a few virtual events, but most of our time and energy is going into restructuring the way that the entire university looks at the Black population. We've been working on putting together resources. We raised over like $12,000 for Minneapolis and have been cleaning up our community. We're going to be volunteering and doing donation drives. We are looking into creating more of a retention rate for Black students, because I think we only have about 60% of Black students graduating from the university right now, which is really, really low compared to the average of white students. So we're working on giving more resources out to our students so that we can see ourselves graduate, as well as just more mental health resources and stuff like that.
Oh, those are all really cool things. And I'm glad that like there's like an organization on campus that's like dedicated to helping out like the Black population. I think you guys are doing really good work.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak today, Semiat. It was great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
My name is FruitPunchLoverBoy. One thing I love about hip hop is just that it slips into every genre, especially today. And it's just, man, it's so fun making music with my friends. I'm super excited for Vanguard because it's uncensored radio, and I haven't heard anything like that, so I'm super pumped.
All right. Like your skin and the fabric of your hotel room. Sound is off, but this movie is pretty good. Silence, we live quite a distance, but we'll come around. The sound is off, this film deserves an Oscar tonight. You got me shook, got me love struck. I can feel it all up in my veins. I'm so obsessed. All of these love songs are just begging your ass to stay. You got me shook, you got me love struck. I can feel it all up in my veins. I'm so obsessed. All of these love songs are just begging your ass to stay. Silk like your skin and the fabric of your hotel room. Sound is off, but this movie is pretty good. Silence we live, quite a distance, but we'll come around. The sound is off, this film deserves an Oscar tonight. Silk like your skin and the fabric of your hotel room. Sound is off, but this movie is pretty good. Silence we live, quite a distance, but we'll come around. The sound is off, this film deserves an Oscar tonight. Yeah, pick any of them. I like it now. Thank you. Thank you.
Gentlemen, you've done it! You've created what I dreamed about! And I must admit, the Vanguard is a slightly better name than I thought about originally. Thank you.
No, Kay. Thank you. And thank you for watching. Thanks to everyone who's been a part of the Vanguard project so far. Jolie, John, Tosin, Rose, Emma, Maddie, Nathan, Sam, Neil, Sarah, and Sarah. Without all of you, none of this would be possible. Thank you for watching. Radio K is excited to bring you 24/7 online hip-hop with the Vanguard. The Vanguard is here for you always at radiok.org. Thanks again for watching, and thank you for supporting Radio K, Real College Radio.